Yeah, we're about to have a great conversation. Thank y'all for joining in on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Hopefully, you have caught up with daylight savings time because I have not. I'm still tired, but we're going to make it do what it do because that's what we do, right? I'm here with my brother, my good brother, facilitator, trainer extraordinaire, who has perfected the art of teaching our kids and reaching them to allow them to reach their fullest potential, or as we say, potential. This man
Sir,
has touched the lives of over 10,000 kids. He has presided over and was a part of a team that had, correct me if I'm wrong, the top was a part of the top three Job Corps centers in the country, right? Is that what it is?
out of 125 in
Out of
2013.
Man, and this is also within the context. I don't want y'all to forget that. Like, what was this? Almost a year ago, we were talking about Job Corps potentially losing all of its funding. So Job
It
Corps,
was.
man, has impacted a lot of lives. So what we're gonna talk about today, though, is we want to dig into this presentation and facilitation we gave last week. We went to a school in Northwest Illinois, and we were tasked with part of the duty was training educators on how to have difficult conversations, how to be culturally sensitive. But what it really narrowed down to was how do we teach teachers how to teach slavery? And when you teach a teacher how to teach that topic, you can teach them how to have a variety of other sensitive topics as well, or touch on a variety of other sensitive topics as well. So when you realized we were giving this presentation, Mr. Cage, what was your immediate thought, and how did you begin to pull and extract some of the lessons we were gonna give?
My immediate thought was this can be a difficult task because by trade, educators are very intelligent people. We go through a tremendous amount of schooling as far as certification, also in life. However, sometimes we get boxed in by our knowledge base. And there's a difference between knowledge and experience. So how we teach is we teach out from a lived experience. Many of the times the topics that we teach in public education is conceptual or abstract. But when a person is going through that process of continually teaching abstract or conceptual material, their ability to be open to new thoughts from someone experienced can be very difficult. That was my
Mm.
first series of thoughts that I had. It can be difficult because as educators, we can be very smart, but at times a smart person rejects wisdom.
I love that. A smart person rejects wisdom, especially when you matriculate through these educational institutions. You get these degrees, your certifications, you might get a little recognition, and you think that you are above learning or humbling yourself to learn more about an experience you have no idea about. And the thing that always resonates with me, man, is when we go through these systems of education, we are being taught through an old paradigm. We're being taught and educated in a way that was based on an old guard and an old pattern. I don't
Hmm.
know too many public schools right now that could prepare our kids for what's facing them, when they graduate, for instance, whether that be economically, politically, socially. The world is ever evolving. And, for, let's just say, an educator that's been teaching for 20 years, right? That means they may have graduated in 2006, bruh. If they have not gone through any training, have not read any books on their practice or pedagogy since then, they are vastly behind. And we take it a step further because we know educators have to have a certain amount of like professional development hours and stuff like that. But how often are they actually engaging in the conversation? How often are they actually in the sessions with the objective of learning, humbling themselves to say, I need to learn how to do more? And I think for us, bro, because of our cultural background, our ethnicity, to get to where we are, we have had to adapt and adjust to various environments. We know how to survive where we come from, but then we also know how to survive in predominantly white spaces where we are not of the dominant culture. And if
Hmm.
you are coming from a white background, which of course when we train educators, bro, like we know that's the vast majority of educators in this country, right? Across this country are white, and our kids, especially as they begin to go to the suburbs of America, go to different towns.
Hmm.
We are already at, like, to me, an all-time low in educators out there. Black men are 1%. I think black women might be 5%. So we're talking 6% of the total educator force. We have to make sure we can reach the educators who are there now, and of course, encourage us to go into it. But if they aren't able to have these conversations, or also too to know the limits of what they can actually teach our kids, we harming our children.
Yeah,
So,
one point as we in this segment of our conversation, and the note that I made was that experience cannot be, let me see. Yep, experience cannot be taught. It must be imparted. So the importance of us going, to these different schools in the school district, there was an impartation from us to them based on our experience. I say that because it's very difficult. You can't teach an experience that you don't have. You can't teach an experience that hasn't been imparted to you. And it goes back to the first question that you asked me. In order to receive an impartation from a person, you have to be open to that person experience. You have to want to learn, and that goes with the humility that person experienced too many times. And ever since I've been in education, I've always took this pathway that my students are my customers. Even though I have to redirect them and instruct them on what to do from a behavior standpoint and academic standpoint, I always tell them, I'm here to serve you. And the epitome of servanthood, a true leader who serves first has to be humble, meaning I'm not measuring myself against you in terms of my experience or my academia. You, young man, young lady, you have experiences in life that I don't. Let me humble myself and learn from the experiences that you have, because when we connect, as we talk about the power of connection allows that information to come from us to them, because the ground of trust has been built as we humble ourselves to be able to listen to our kids teach us what we don't know.
mm, that's real talk. I love that. So can we delve a little deeper too on what it takes to impart this? Because for us, the relative experience would have to be, what does it mean for us to teach about sensitive topics to the Latino community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community? These are experiences we have not had, but in the classroom, especially for our experience, we have had to do that. So for you, how would you approach that, and how do you get imparted with that information to give, as a facilitator? And think about what does that mean for a white educator that does not have that particular experience?
In terms of the students imparting to me,
Hmm. Well, like, if you teach them an ethnic group or background that is unfamiliar to your upbringing, how do you begin to receive that impartation?
one of my first, I'm always curious because, and this is what we shared with the educators that last Friday. In order to be a teacher, you always have to be a student. Not only a student of your discipline or craft, but a student of people. Having an understanding that when a group of people feel and believe that they are superior to another, the ability to learn from them, it dissipates. When I'm in classrooms, all of these classrooms that I've been in over the 18 plus years, 10,000 kids from kindergarten to 12th grade, middle school, vocational school, high school, I enter the classroom as a human. I don't enter the classroom as a teacher per se, from the professional standard of a teacher. I believe that everybody is a teacher. And once I let my students know that this is a learning experience for us, this is not my classroom. This is our classroom. And the classroom that we in, even though it's a brick and mortar, it's not limited to this brick and mortar, because life is the classroom where we learn from. So as much as I'm gonna teach you, you're gonna teach me as well. Once I go in and I make these type of statements, and then it's an expectation being set that, oh, I can express who I am. Absolutely, because who you are is important to me, and who you are and your experience associated with it is going to broaden me as a facilitator. I don't necessarily have the luxury to be in the same classroom every day. It's a very difficult thing to be in different classrooms, different schools on a consistent basis, but it's a growth tool that I use to enhance who I am as a professional and as a person. But it's the same approach, the same concept is I'm not coming in here to tell y'all what to do. I'm coming in here to set an expectation, a open environment where learning can take place through your peers, from me to you, and from you to me. As a human first. I'm a human first, then I'm a teacher second, but simultaneously I'm a teacher and I'm a student.
Yes, sir. That's good. That's good. And I think that kind of that helps us delve deeper into what this means. When we talk about how to teach a teacher to teach about a sensitive topic like slavery, we have to make sure that these educators come in with that same level of humility and not this air of arrogance and pride, like we said before, that connects their academic achievement with their ability to properly teach our kids and our children. And with that said, like, because a lot of this is beyond what the topic in the curriculum is. We know that you can look up stuff, you can get a curriculum, you can get a textbook, you have the information, but that does not tell you how to implement the play, right? You might have a playbook, but the great coaching and great players can turn that into a championship team. You feel me? So one of the things we discuss, and I don't want to say too much because we don't have all the time, of course, and also too, this is, you know, the districts are bringing us in to facilitate this in this particular way. But one of the things I think that folks can get from this right now is this conversation that we have about what it means to be a goaded teacher versus a mid teacher. And we have the luxury of being in conversation with young folks we teach, coach, or for me, I got some middle school kids too right now, and they often talk about what it means to be a goaded teacher versus a mid teacher. And what I think is very interesting too about this is I've seen my own kids describe this at a level in which it's not particular to the racial background of a teacher. It's more so about how they felt when they were in their presence. So can you speak a little bit about from your perspective what it means to have this sensitive conversation with the class, but to make kids feel comfortable because you're a go-to teacher, not a mid teacher?
Well, we first got to define what a go-to teacher is. So I would throw it back to you and ask you, how do you define a go-to teacher?
Yeah, so we know too, like of course, culturally, we're talking greatest of all time, right? Now we know that gets used a lot in our society, but when our kids say you goated, it means that you up there, you one of the greats, you the best of something that we have right now. Now, of course, we know if you mid, you just kind of average, you just getting by, you just basic, right? So when I talk to my kids, my middle school kids about what this means for them, and I can connect that to my own experience, it is the educators that made them feel comfortable in class, right? So
Mm,
I said something on Friday that I did not plan, but it hit me as I was articulating it. And it
hmm
was like, if I haven't felt like I could laugh in your class, why would I feel like I can cry in your class?
Ah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you haven't given me, and what I mean is, you haven't given me joy. If you haven't given me joy, I don't want to experience or learn about the pain because I don't trust you, which means that you come in there as a robot. You come in there as an AI figure. In fact, we got some folks that's in these classrooms teaching like they chat GPT. They probably asking chat how to better teach our kids. They up there reading and reciting it as opposed to tapping into the human element. So the comfortable nature comes in, not in you telling the kids, I want to make you feel comfortable. No, no, you don't say that. Like you bring your whole self. You show the kids who you are as a person. Does a
yeah,
child know you as that teacher of English or history, or do they know you as Mr. So and so or Miss So and so that also just so happens to teach this? Do they know about your
loaded.
family? They know about your wife, your husband. Like, do they know what you like to do outside of school? Do they know about your music takes? When you come in and the bell rings, are you shutting and slamming the door every day and yelling at kids for standing up for being kids?
Wow.
A golden teacher, it ain't even about like how many A's your class gets, because that can all be fabricated. To be a golden teacher means, again, I'm gonna close on this, right?
Okay.
It is how your children respond when they know that you are about to do something that should be perceived as fun in that class,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If you are, for example, I'm using this from real life experience. Well, my kids have told me this is like primary source oral history right here in real time. If you are about to play a game with your class and you announce it in your class and your kids cannot contain their excitement, that is the goaded teacher. And not only that, you don't use that as an opportunity to discipline them in a nefarious manner because you understand they're expressing genuine human emotion. The mid teacher won't even be excited themselves about playing the game. They kind of just gonna do it because, like, hey, this is gonna help me knock off a check on my evaluation. The mid teacher, when they announce they playing that game, that review game, the kids gonna be looking at each other like, well, can we laugh? Can we say we excited? Can we like and I've had my daughters tell me this difference that they've experienced and witnessed with being in class and community with kids who are in one class, the class clown, and in the other class, they don't express that same emotion because they feel like they're viewed as the class convict.
a a goaded teacher doesn't come from your peers, it comes from the students.
Mm.
I know that's a little tough. I respect all my educators. I love us dearly. We work together, we bleed together, we cry together. But when you are stamped a GOAT teacher, in this context, it does not come from your peers. It comes from the students. They'll because I've had students. I met a student came into a classroom for one day, and she looked at me. She said, "Oh, you goated." I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And then she taught me what that cultural language means. To answer your question based on what you share, and I appreciate you sharing that insight because I'm learning and we having this conversation. A goaded teacher knows how to tell stories about their life that's relevant but have professional boundaries. That's
Mm.
the connection. Because it's good to have pictures of your husband and wife and your kids in your classroom. It's good. But if I don't ever step past that and be transparent about my experiences, my ups and downs, my struggles in a professional way, it's an art form. Of course, you can't tell your students everything about you. That's just too much. It doesn't fit the setting, but you got to know how to tell stories that's relevant to them that they can connect with, that can turn into a transferable skill. So we teach in English, we teach in math, we teach in science, we teach in advanced algebra. Do we possess the ability? Well, we probably do. Is it has to be refined to train. Do we possess the ability to tell a story and connect it to not only the subject that we teach in, but a real life experience that can transform into a transferable skill, a soft skill, empathy, communication, critical thinking. A GOAT teacher also, and those who watch, you probably want to make a note. Those who are watching, a goated teacher is a security guard, but he or she is not. Mr. Cage, what do you mean? I'm a security guard, but I'm not. The first and primary responsibility of us as educators when we are working with other people's kids is to make sure that they're safe mentally, physically, and socially and emotionally. We have to make sure that our expectations and rules and environment guards and protects our kids from one another because sometimes they say harmful things because they lack the lived experience. On the flip side, I'm also not a security guard either, meaning that you can come as you are. I'm not trying to my language, my culture, the vibe that you get in the classroom allows you to be who you are. Give you an example. I ran across students who use profanity consistently. I don't use profanity. That's my value system. That's my life choice. Do I look down upon people who use profanity? No, because I realize that their experience is different. In one phase of life, I used to use profanity, but I don't anymore. Students using profanity, I listen. Okay, I see how much that person is going to use. Then I'll redirect the whole classroom. I may not point out that specific person. I may say, y'all, or when I come in the classroom, I'll set that standard and say to them, you know what, this is my expectations for today. And this is in the context of me coming in and subbing for a class. 'Cause I subbed a lot of classes from kindergarten, first grade, 12th grade, and I also taught different subjects, algebra, English, all the different subjects. But context, coming in subbing, I'm setting the expectation, what I expect from you, what your teacher expects from you academically and behaviorally, right? And once that expectation is set, hey, take it easy, you all. I know that some of us probably use profanity, but I'm not asking you not to curse. I'm asking you to modify your language. I want to see you make an intentional effort to use different language. Do they do it? Yes. And when I see them do it, they may use profanity real fast, and then they'll, my fault, sir. I appreciate that because a baby step is a step. So however far you stepping based on the expectation that's been given, I'm going to make sure to positively reinforce that. Now, when you see me and I come in the classroom and then Krim and I coming into your school, we doing programs. What's up, Cage? What's going on? Because a goat meets the students where they are and helps them get to the place where they need to be successful in the building and outside of the building.
Mm, let that breathe. Let that breathe.
Yeah.
I like what you said too, because now as I'm interpreting that, it's we don't try to discard the student, we try to mold them. So if we come in and approach a student and we tell them that something about them is wrong, especially depending on the age group, so we may be middle school through high school, whatever, they in their mind, we have to remember we're teaching kids, not adults, kids, y'all.
Mhm.
We kept reiterating on Friday, remember these are 11, 12, 13-year old. We have to constantly remind ourselves that because from personal experience, sometimes you're a parent or teach of the mindset you have now, not realizing how many years it took you to get to that point. So if our kids are coming into middle school and they curse like that, we got to be honest about where they probably learned it from. They ain't learned it in the school
Mhm.
book, right? But they learned it from their environments, and they couldn't control that oftentimes. So we got to let them know, well, there's a better way to do that. There's a different way. I see what you're trying to describe right there with that language, but this is more direct, right? That was even the point when we talked about the N word. It's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do with that, but nobody can debate being called a king or queen. Like that has one meaning if you're being called something regal or royal. So I
Mhm.
see what you're doing with that, and I see what our culture has done with that. But I'm gonna give you a better alternative for that right there.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
can't because if we discard the student, then we're also making a critique of the culture that they have
Mhm.
adapted and grown into, and that they're trying to make sense of. We have a punitive society. We want to arrest every kid. We want to arrest a problem, throw them away, right? We have a punitive in the school to prison pipeline. We do that in school. So now I'm about to draw a connection right there. The same way we try to discipline our kids is the same way we try to teach them about content that is uncomfortable or sensitive. But then when the time comes where we have to really teach about it in the school or the district is mandating, we're unprepared because we have evolved to throw away every problem. Punitiveness means that, okay, that student cursed. All right, first time I hear, bam, referral, you get out my class. You curse, you scream, get out my class. And the
Mhm.
uncomfortable or sensitive content to us that is not germane to us comes across our desk, the same mindset says, I ain't teaching this. I feel uncomfortable. Throw it out. Let's get rid of it. That's the problem we have in here as a broader culture in America. We want to sweep everything under the rug, bruh. But like I was saying on Friday, like you eventually you're gonna trip on that rug. We can't keep avoiding these things. So by building that bridge right there culturally, by telling the child and helping them understand there ain't nothing wrong with you. Matter of fact, if you was loud with that word, that means you got a lot of energy. You can speak well. You might want to be a lawyer. You might want to be a teacher too. But let's use a different word because what we find too is, bruh, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most kids who are using language like that excessively at a young age, especially, and they have not even figured out maybe the dynamic of code switching or something like that, they have a limited vocabulary. So that means that we have to teach them that. How, like, for one, we don't want you to, but if you do, what are some other words? So we want to teach these kids from a pragmatic standpoint, an optimistic standpoint. You are our future leader, but we got to mold that. And if we thought, like,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of clay. You see something wrong with that clay, you pull it off, throw it out. You pull it off, throw it out till there ain't nothing left, right? But we have to pull it together. This Play-Doh.
Hmm.
Pull it together and mold this masterpiece, man. Can you speak a little? Go ahead. I'm gonna cut you off. I see you about to say something.
What you was getting ready to say though?
I was about to ask you to break down the invisible backpack a little more, but go ahead and say what you was gonna
Oh
say.
yeah, it's the visible backpack is coming. As we talk about the topic of profanity, I ran across a student, African American young man. I think he might have been he was maybe a freshman or a sophomore in special education. And I came to the classroom to relieve the teacher. She had to go to an IEP meeting, and there was another professional in there facilitating the lesson. So I was coming in there, doing an observation, and he was going hard with the profanity, y'all. He was going hard in the paint, slam dunking it and everything. And I sat and listened to him. So the first time he used profanity, this the key, y'all. Self-awareness. When a person does something or says something that doesn't agree with my value system, does it bother me? Because if it bothers me to the point where I have to say something, then that's more of you. And it's not going to be beneficial to address that person, or let me not say address the person, address the problem itself. So it didn't bother me. I kind of was like, okay, interesting. And he used it 3 or 4 times because I knew a lot of the kids in the classroom. After the lesson got done, out of respect for the professional who was facilitating, I hovered around the class, acknowledged people. I said, "Oh, I want to see some of your grades, girl," because it was a young lady that I run to the hallway off. I want to see if you really about what I see from you. Yes, sir. She showed me her whole folder, every piece of work that she had in there. Well, eventually, I get around to him. Now, I had seen him in the school, but I had never had a one-on-one conversation with him. And I tapped him. I said, "Sir, like, what's going on, brother? What's going on, brother?" So I violate the script by using a cultural word, brother, because he's a student and I'm an adult. I'll be 46 this year. But to connect with him, brother, or I may say sir, but in that aspect, I said brother. I said, bro, what's going on? I kneeled down, humility. I kneeled down by his desk, like, bro, what's going on? What's up, sir? Hey, you using a whole lot of profanity today, man. What's going on? Oh man, he knew it was wrong. I never told him that. I just brought it to his attention. His response, "Oh man, my pops be oh, the environment dictates how people move. We are a product of our environment, whether it be positive or negative." And this is what I said to him. I told him, well, man, you gotta be socially aware, SEL language. You have to be socially aware of how your profanity can impact other people. You got to be aware of yourself and then be aware of surroundings. It's like, okay, sir. Next time I see you, I want to see you use some different words. I want you to improve your language on how you carry yourself. What did he do? He responded. And then when the kids were getting ready to leave, we by the door, we talking about sports and other topics. It's an art form, it's a craft to redirect people now in society because generally speaking, society is more tender. And when a person is more tender, it means that they're on the defense consistently. More people are hurting now than ever. And if we keep ignoring these issues, it's going to continue to increase. But people like Mr. Crim, myself doing the work, and other people that's watching doing the work as well. Let me say something real quick about the invisible backpack. In the high school, the criminal I used to work at, we had random backpack checks. So what'll happen is that you'll bring the metal detector and just random checks, right? When backpacks are being checked by security, we're trying to find things that are harmful in that backpack to protect not only the safety of the person, but everybody involved in the school. But when you think about when students come in and we inadvertently or constantly check their backpacks, because everybody carries something. Mr. Crumite carries something. Everybody that we know got something that they carrying, right? In a negative sense. Or just carrying in a neutral sense or in a positive sense. But right now we're just talking about neutral because we don't want to say negative or positive. Because if we have that mindset, then when the kids come in with their experiences, our language, our demeanor, how we teach, what we teach will snatch out what they're bringing to the table. The question is, my preguntas for today, why is it that we do it? Response. Most times, if a person, professional, whoever, believes that their safety is being violated, they perceive it as a threat. So if my perception is your experience, your trauma, your culture, your ideas, if I perceive you as a threat, y'all, please hear what I'm saying, y'all. If a white educator perceives an African American young man that's a freshman in high school that's 6'3", 225 pounds, if he or she perceives them as a threat, they're going to be on the defensive. And they're going to, as the kids say, they're going to do the most to make sure that the classroom is in control. And if it's a controlled environment in that sense, nobody is really being who they are, including the professional.
Mm. Man, you're gonna have to run that part back. You're gonna have to run that part back. Being forceful because you view our kids as a threat. They have to unload everything before they walk into that class. And then also too, you are trying to impart something else that is foreign to them that they are resistant of. Instead of us
Hmm.
trying to find ways to come together.
When I used to go to the club back in the day in my old life, you going to a club, the security guard is checking you for everything that you may bring that may cause harm to the people. And so when we flip that and we do it in the classroom, we take away lived experiences, family narratives, culture identity, prior knowledge, whether it be accurate or inaccurate, trauma or triumphs, beliefs about race, history, and power, academic confidence or insecurity. They trust in teachers. That's a key, and their relation with school itself. So many times I will ask students, don't say nobody name, y'all. What has been your experience in middle school and high school? I'm letting them unload what's in the invisible backpack. I had a situation where I met a Hispanic young lady. I'm reading off attendance, and because it's my first time meeting this entire class, and my goal is to always pronounce your name right because the pronunciation of your name is an identifier of who you are. Your parents just didn't wake up and think about naming you Ernest. They took some time to say, you know what, this person is going to be identified as Ernest Crim. So the young lady, Hispanic young lady, before I even try to pronounce her name, I always say this: hey, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. I'm not doing it intentionally. Correct me, please. I say her name wrong. And I asked her, did I say your name wrong? She said, yeah, yeah. I said, well, how did I told her, I asked her, well, how do you pronounce it? She pronounced it for me. I mispronounced it again. She said, it's okay, sir. My response, no, it's not okay. Tell me again. I'm going to try. She said, you know what, sir? When I was in middle school, I had a teacher that I tried to teach how to pronounce my name time and time again, and she couldn't get it. And ever since then, I just didn't care. That's not good. What happened in that transaction? The young lady was able to unpack from her invisible backpack what it was and what it meant to her. And as an educator, as a person in the community, as a human, I listened and I eventually said her name right. But I let her know anytime you engage with a person, you need to make sure that they're saying your name right. And then when I shared that story with you, Dr. Krim said you were showing her how to self advocate. I was like, wow, that's exactly what it was. But it's the trust that has to be built in order
Mhm.
for me to come in as who I am. If I don't trust you, then I can't bring everything that I am to you.
I love that. So as y'all are tuning in, make sure you subscribe to Mr. Cage's newsletter on Substack. Subscribe to him elsewhere as well. This is my brother right here. So make sure y'all are tuned in and tapped in. And if you feel led, go ahead and upgrade to paid because we always, what I'm saying, need that support, especially in times like this. It allows us to continue to do this work, y'all. What I gathered from that too is because I think when a lot of folks probably clicked on this, the idea was, hey, how do you teach about slavery? We about to go over all of these different facts and like, no, no, no. If you teaching it, even, this is even practical for parents. I want y'all to understand this, right? It's practical for
Absolutely.
parents too. When you are delivering something that is sensitive to somebody, you have to have a relationship. You have to embrace them for who they are. You have to allow them to be themselves. If there is no relationship, then we can't even do this. And I'm looking at the etymology of what this is, relationship. And it says from the 1300s, connection, correspondence, right? Report, connection, restoring, bringing back. And we know, of course, the root of that is going to be just relate. How do you relate to me? There is a general assumption that if I don't look like the child that I'm teaching, that we don't have a connection. And that is false. It's because we're leading with our eyes in a way we have been socialized to see this idea of connection. If you cannot connect with your students, that means you have, to me, what that means to me is you have viewed yourself as superior to your students, and that they are the only, like we said before, that means that they are also, from your opinion, the only ones who should be receiving information and knowledge while in this class. You got to have humility, relate. I mean, come on, everybody like music. Right? Like we thinking too specific. We thinking like, oh man, I grew up on Living Single Martin, or some of them grew up on Friends. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like grew up on whatever SNL. Let us hate that. And these kids, no, like think broader. We humans first. Like we all in this together. So like let's connect. I mean, it seems so simple, but when I think back to what I used to do, it allowed me to bridge a gap, especially as I got older. When I got older as a teacher, that's when I began to get a little fearful. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, man, because
Mhm.
when I first started teaching, bro, I was a millennial like my kids was. So we like the same
Yeah.
stuff. Like my
Mhm.
former students now are in their 30s now. You know what I'm saying? We working with some of them, right? But
Yeah.
when I got older, what became really important for me was being honest about the gap now. It was, oh, what y'all listening to now? Okay, y'all like that? Okay, and I would even kind of just egg them on. If we have some time at the end of a class period, we got 5, 10 minutes away. Okay, who y'all listening to? Matter of fact, on that first date, the index cards. What you listening to now? Everybody has an answer, no matter how quiet that child is or how extroverted they
Yeah.
are. I'm gonna put on your favorite music, or if you got like a little funny YouTube clip, of course. Assume we got to make sure it's clean, right? And we gonna watch that and we gonna enjoy it together. Because I'm
Mhm.
trying to get, by me learning more about you, I'm enriching myself. Relationships is just finding a way to relate. Once you relate to that child, that I mean, you got the kids where every year I would have a few kids who would die hard basketball fans, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kids when the bed we packing up, we having some conversation, man. And here's what I want to say too. Now that I'm thinking about it, you got to find something in common with the child that you're teaching that is completely subjective, that you can have fun with, and that you can't even be right no matter how right you think you are. Because for me and my students, it's oh Jordan the GOAT. I mean, this is come on, why are we even talking about this? Oh, come on, Crim, it's LeBron. Oh, come on, Crim, it's Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Or we might have a debate about who like the top 5 rappers or something, or the best food in the area. You got it,
Mm.
because your whole class is based around objectivity and quantitative information and all that. No, no, like
Mhm.
bring yourself down, because when the bell rings and you gone, you ain't thinking about that stuff no more a lot either. You want to turn on your favorite podcast, TV show, radio show, TikTok, whatever. Find something subjective that you can connect with kids on, and especially if it proves how old you are. Because I'm laughing now. A great example we could have used on Friday, man, was this rapper that's out now. I don't know how old he is, Lil Yachty. I don't listen to him, but I know who he is. I might say maybe he's late 20s or whatever. He's been out for a little minute though. But he said something on the podcast that would be very disrespectful to our generation. He said that Rapper's Delight was trash by Sugar Hill Gang. He said that was a trash song, they couldn't rap or whatever, right? Now, especially in my father's generation, they're gonna take complete offense. But the lesson there too is, for one, we can have fun with it in class. Because I'm sure all our kids would think the way they rhyme was trash. But also we gotta let them know that without the Sugar Hill Gang, you wouldn't even have your favorite rappers today. so, so
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? So, but even
Yeah.
what's funny about it is, even with me saying that objectively it's a building block, but it's still subjective because that's his opinion and that's how he feels about
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it.
Absolutely agree. I wanted to shift the conversation a bit as we get ready to close out
Hmm.
to slavery
Hmm.
because our title is
Yes, indeed.
Teaching Teachers to teach slavery, right?
Hmm.
I want to give I want to give our audience a another dimension of slavery, you know, outside the literal sense. This is
Right.
still literal, but it's
Right.
not necessarily historical, as you would position it. And I got a couple statements. I want to know what your thoughts are about it
Hmm.
because I may have shared these statements with you in conversation, but never on the platform.
Hmm.
So if y'all, if you, as you watching, I want you to. No, I don't want you to type that word. Type the
Hmm.
word freedom. Yeah, type the word freedom. Not the other word. This is the first statement. I'm gonna give you a couple more for us to consider. Then, we can land the plane. A box is not a home. We were not created to fit inside of a box. Yet there has been a box created for us to fit inside of. This box also has a label called limitation, mediocrity, and status quo. Oftentimes we talk about the school to prison pipeline. I've heard a tremendous amount of educators, and I respect them well, talk about the school to prison pipeline in the literal sense of African American males leaving the school and going straight to jail or prison. I was one of those people, by the way. I graduated from high school in 1998. 5 months after high school, I was in the county jail. Put my life on hold for at least 7, 8, maybe 10 years because of systematic consequences were activated because of my behavior based on the environment that I was raised in. I always tell students and people, if you don't have a plan for your life will have a plan for you. I'm sorry, if you don't have a plan for life, life will have a plan for you. My mentor would say that you either live by design or default. And this is why Crim and I work with the educators and work with the students who are being educated concerning their plan life after high school. But I want to give this last a series of thoughts in terms of the school to prison pipeline. The school to prison pipeline leads to an incarcerated mind, and an incarcerated mind leads to an incarcerated life, which in essence can lead to literal jail or prison, but will always result in a life of being, it's quotation mark, being average, mediocre, status quo, or the norm. Sometimes people accept the norm, but it's abnormal because it's below the quality of life that they have been designed and destined to live. Lastly, now why? Why does this incarcerated mind that produced the incarcerated life manifest itself in our kids? Because of what is being taught, and we'll probably have to do a part two so we can get clarification. What is being taught, why it is being taught, how it's being taught, who is teaching what is being taught, and where what is being taught comes from.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
we
lot
go.
of we got to unpack. It's a lot of loaded. Y'all can get y'all thoughts or questions, and submit them to the page. But we had to go deeper in depth with those series of statements so we can flesh it out and get an understanding of what was trying to be conveyed.
No, yeah, we're gonna have to definitely do a part two. It might just have to end up being a series because just like we learned on Friday, and this was something we already talked about beforehand, but we knew that one session on that topic, even though we had, roughly an hour and a half or so, wouldn't be enough because you
Mm-mm.
can't unlearn a cultural pattern and norm by being talked to for an hour or so, or being lectured or being facilitated to. It has to be a common practice. And the thought that emerged as you were talking, and this is where we can stop and then give people this, the teaser of coming back for the next one. But we can't our kids can't be taught about slavery from the same mindset and cultural norm of those who did the enslavement. And
Because
let me say this, let me say this real quick. And I say this, okay, and I want y'all to understand that this is not dependent upon your racial ethnic background, but dependent upon your racial and ethnic background. You have probably been conditioned to the norms of that value system more than others, which means you have to do a lot more reflecting. We cannot teach about slavery the same way because if we teach about slavery the same way that has been taught, then we are teaching our kids to continue the cycle, the perpetuation of accepting enslavement, and you being the provocateur of it.
What I wanted to say, Brother Krim, is that teaching is not just the dissemination or distribution of information. This is why it can't be done and it can't be learned in one session, right? Because teaching is not only the distribution and dissemination of information, it's sharing from a lived out experience. I always tell students, when I come in different classrooms, I'll ask them, well, what did you learn today? And their response, many times they'll parrot what they learn, right? And I tell them that anytime a word is used, you got to understand the context in which that word was used or who it come from, because teaching in the context of a middle school or high school may be in a math class, maybe in an English class. But what I'm saying, what you have learned or what's been taught to you, have you understood and comprehended the concept that was given to you, and have you integrated into your lifestyle, and do you have an outcome? So when you talk about educators and when you do professional development, those who speak, it's rough because sometimes it can be a checklist type of situation. But this particular topic definitely can't be a checklist, because in order to learn, you have to practice. No athlete, NBA or WNBA basketball player, became a GOAT by going through a practice session one time. The practice session has to reach outside the normal hours, and it must turn into a lifestyle. So our responsibility is to help our fellow educators understand that in order to really teach this subject, you have to live it. We teach what we live, and we live what we teach.
So next time, we're going to have to break down what it means to live it, especially if you come from those who could not have and did not live it. Ooh, y'all going to make sure you subscribe. Come on, this is about to be this. I feel like the tendonism dude. That's that. We got to find a word for this. That's that tendonism right there. Y'all just got that work. Slow roasted. Like this was very valuable. Share this with your educator friends. Share this with your parents. Even if you are not in the classroom, this is still important because you have to flip the perspective on how you learn and digest this information too. And we're gonna have to do it again, maybe next week. But stay tuned, y'all. Subscribe, upgrade to paid if you feel led, and we'll see y'all next
Can I
time.
can I can I say one more thing?
Yep.
This conversation was so important, brother. Thank you for having me and us collaborating and connecting on the platform. But what I would like to leave the audience with is that the classroom is not limited to a brick and mortar. Life is a classroom. So this is what we're trying to convey, not only to our educators, but to us. Sometimes what's happening with our students is that, and I'm sure this is nationwide, we believe that we can only learn something when we're in the classroom, because we have it limited to the brick and mortar because we have been conditioned, not knowing that life outside of the classroom, life is a classroom where you can learn and grow if that paradigm and perspective is given to people where they can receive it and understand it.
Yes, indeed.
I apologize, brother. I had to
Oh
throw that.
no, that's it. That's it. Shout out to y'all for tuning in. The most recent comment I see is from Kimmy Wynn. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for supporting, and we'll see y'all soon, y'all. Peace.
Peace. Salute. Salute.